here we go. Oh, great. That looks good. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Edwin Rutch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and I'd like to welcome you to our Empathy Circle Facilitation Training. I'm in this cohort. I'm going to be one of the co-producers, which is a person sort of organizes, does all the background organization. I've connected with most of you via email, in terms of setting up the scheduling and everything. And I want to introduce the other participants or the other trainers in this cohort. So we have Bill Filler, who's one of the co-developers of the training. So that's Bill. And then there's Lou Swire, who's also a trainer and one of the developers of the training. And we have another trainer, Larry Lawhorn, and also Anne Jordan from the UK, and then Celine from Oregon, and we have Linda Bass from Texas. So these are the trainers. So these are people in the who have done the training, at least 5 times and or more, and have become trainers of it. And we have also, and the trainers are experienced with the whole training, and they're kind of helping to run and organize it. And then we also have trainees. They're people who have done the training at least once and are now kind of learning how to become trainers of this training. And we have Wendy, who's one of the trainees, and then Altonia, who's there, yay, and Dwayne, who this is with the training. You take the training once as a participant, you can become a trainee. So, and if you do if you're a trainee for 4 times, then you become, after that, you become a trainer. So this Dwayne will be graduating today after this. So with that, my job is sort of, co-producer is over, and I turn it over to the training team. So Linda, if you want to take it away, please.
Yes. Welcome, everyone. Glad to see you today. This is going to be fun, so just relax and enjoy it. We're going to go around and introduce the participants today, maybe 30 seconds or whatever. Give us your name, your location, and why you're interested in taking this this training. So we're going to start with Ina. Yes.
Okay. Hi. Ina Barone. I am in Denver, Colorado, aka Cheyenne Arapaho territory. I am here because I want to learn as part of an advocate for the Department of Peace. Yeah, so that's why I'm here. Thanks for having me.
All right. And is that Paula or Paul?
It's Paula, but it might be easier for you to say Pau, like power.
Okay.
I'm originally from Colombia, but I'm in Washington, D.C. And I'm here because I find the NVC framework to be one of the most incredible, life-changing experiences that I've had. So I'm here to see how this group applies that.
All right. And Kelly?
Yes, hello. My name is Kelly O'Brien. I'm from Windsor, Connecticut, USA. I'm interested in this training because I'm very interested in empathy, and I want to become a better speaker, a better listener. I think this is very beneficial to individuals and to peace building. Thank you.
All right, Kelly. And is it Garin? Garin? I can't, the letters are so small. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I come from, I live in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and I am interested to make part of this training because I already did many years ago a training about empathy and active listening, and I want to refresh my skills.
Okay. And can you pronounce your name again? Because I know I messed it up.
Yeah, Garan.
Garan. Okay. Jay?
Hi, I'm Jay. I am on the lands of the Chinookan peoples, specifically Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, also known as Portland, Oregon. And yeah, I guess I want to do this training because I'm interested. I'm interested in learning more about like how to be in conversation with people that are very different from me and hold space for people that have very different life experience and different opinions. I have a lot of backgrounds holding affinity spaces, but would kind of like to widen my circle of empathy. Thanks.
You're in the right place. You're in the right place. And Anastasia?
Hi, I'm Anastasia Odadzidou. I'm from Greece. I am a life coach and I want to be more empathetic.
Okay, great. Okay, it's good. We're an international group. Yay. Okay, did I miss anyone? And Sally, I see you're here. There you are. Okay. Okay, Sally. All right, then. Do you want me to go around and do the trainers?
Yeah,
Everyone?
I think we have plenty of time, so trainees
Okay.
and trainers would be good.
All right, our illustrious trainers and trainees. We'll start with Lou.
Hi, I'm Lou Zwire. I'm from Northern California, and I've been working with the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy for about 5 or 6 years. And I'm really excited at the diversity of the folks that we have here. And so I'm really looking forward to working with all of you and supporting you in learning to facilitate circles.
And Bill?
Yeah, I'm Bill Filler. I'm also in Northern California in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've also worked with Edwin for about 5 years. I'm a retired special education teacher, and seeing the psychopathology that I did, I think this is exactly what the world needs. And great to be with you, and I honor your commitment to learning this. Thanks.
Yes, and our in-house guru, Larry.
I think you mean me.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Larry in Florida, and I'm a retired occupational therapist. And I'm relatively new to the empathy circles, which I really love. And for me, the empathy is always about being in the now. So it's always brand new. And I just love this. And I hope I never get old. Whoops.
You won't. You won't. All right, Anne.
So I'm Anne Jordan, and I'm in the southwest of England in the United Kingdom. And I've been part of the Empathy Circle movement for a few years. I've lost track, and I really value working with this team of people and with new participants and facilitators, basically building a culture of empathy in the world. And I'm really passionate about it. And I'm looking forward to working with you all over the next few weeks.
Thank you. Dwayne?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dwayne Hearn. I'm actually a retired government worker from the city of San Jose. I've been involved with this group probably a little over a year, but I was introduced to deep and active listening when I was in high school and was very much involved in this type of activity as a high school student and also as a young adult. My purpose for being here, first and foremost, is my own personal growth and development. Want to continue to learn how to be a better person for the rest of my life, but it also aligns with my purpose for the rest of my life, which is contributing something positive to the world that I'm living in for the rest of my life, while I'm here. So I'm happy to be here. This is a great team of people to work with, and every activity I participate in is an opportunity for my own personal growth and development. So I enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Eltonia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Altonia Shepherd. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've been, oh gosh, in this group for about a little over a year. I've been doing empathy groups, boy, since I was in college, actually. We used to train in empathy, active listening, I should say, when I was in college. So had a lot of experience that way. But I'm also a restorative practice facilitator. So this is right in alignment with what I do. Currently, I'm a part of a restorative initiative here in Philadelphia, and part of I'm a hub leader, and part of what I'm going to be doing is actually training the other hub leaders in the empathy circle process.
Thank you. Wendy?
Thank you. I'm from the north of England in an area called the Lake District, Cumbria. And I did, I think, my first empathy circle sometime in August or something like that. So I'm very, very, very new. Although the whole concept of empathy is something that I've felt very passionate about for a long time. And it's I've been very inspired by this group, and this is just the second time that I've done this training, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Anne. Wendy. Selene?
Hi, everybody. I live in the United States in Southern Oregon, land of the Shasta and Takelma and Lagawa people. I have a background in mediation and education and nonviolent communication. And I've been enjoying being part of this group and this work for a couple of years. And I loved hearing today Jay say holding space, because I think that is so accurate a description of what we do as we listen in the empathy circles. I'm just thrilled to get to know you all in these next 5 weeks. Thank you.
All right. And Sally, do you want to introduce yourself? There you are.
Hey, yeah, I am Sally from Cathy's Valley in on the way to Yosemite National Park in California. I've been doing this maybe 3-ish years or close, and initially it was to get along with my husband and family better. And so I've been working with him, and we're making remarkable progress. And but really from a non-listener evolving into a listener.
Excellent, Sally. Thank you. Well, I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to let Edwin introduce himself. My name is Linda Bass. I'm from Texas, North Texas, Fort Worth. I'm a mediator. Well, this is my second chapter in my life as a mediator. My first chapter was as a property and claims adjuster, manager, whatever you want to call it, in insurance. So this is the second chapter. I'm a mediator and arbitrator, and I love what I'm doing in my second life. I like participating in these circles because I learn something new every time from someone, some exercise or whatever. So it's an enlightening experience for me, and I love it. And now Edwin, the founder.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Edwin Nwech, director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. So for about the past 14 years, I've been working on how do we create a more empathic society, and I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area near Berkeley. And I just find that the empathy circle, which we're doing here, is kind of the easiest first step gateway practice to building empathy skills. There's a lot that we can do to develop those skills and that way of being, but this is a really good first step and sort of a foundational practice. So I'm really trying to spread it as widely as possible and make it as accessible as possible. As we say in here at the center, we're trying to teach all 8 billion people in the world how to do this. 1 simple first step gateway practice to get started, just for greater well-being in the world. So do you want me to pass it on to the
Yes,
next?
yes, please.
So we
Yeah.
have Anne, who's going to be giving the course objectives and ARC.
Thanks, Edwin. So I'm going to run through what the purpose of this training and our practice of being empathy circle facilitators is. So our purpose, basically, as you've heard mentioned this evening already, is to create a culture of empathy in the world. And our objectives to do this are to support participants to understand and become familiar with the goals and with the values and the core structure of the empathy circle, and to give the opportunity to deepen your experience and develop your skills of being a facilitator. And in the process, we hope that you will be establishing strong bonds within this group of people with other participants and trainees and trainers, and connections and a sense of community with each other. And you will be supporting each other with your training and growth towards building a culture of empathy. Sorry. And we have trainees on the program, as you can see, and we will be supporting those trainees in learning to host the training, to develop their own practice so that they too will be able to become trainers and spread the practice further. I'm going to also run through the arc of the training. So during the first session this evening, we'll review the empathy circle practice and our core values of a culture of empathy. In session 2, we will be practicing how to give the introduction, the how-to of the empathy circle, and begin to facilitate an empathy circle, each of you. And in the third session, we will again practice giving the introduction, the method of how to have an empathy circle, but also begin to take on challenges if we feel ready, that we think might arise in these situations in an empathy circle as facilitator. The fourth session, again, you'll be practicing facilitating and addressing challenges to the level at which you feel comfortable at the time or prepared to have a go. And during the fifth and last session, we will have an opportunity to integrate our learning of empathy circles, and also we'll be harvesting feedback and hearing what your next steps will be. So that's a brief run through of the arc of the whole program for the 5 weeks. And I'm going to pass you on now to Bill, who's going to talk with us about the values of empathy.
Thanks, Anne. Well, the empathy circle is part of a larger vision of a culture of empathy. It's an excellent tool, but we wish for these empathic values, the learnings, both intellectual and emotional, that you have to spread throughout. And we do that through our values. And again, these are a work in progress. You may have some that are similar or think that's fine. But we identified these core values as working, values right now. One is empathy. And basically it means sensing and feeling into the experience of others. Also, not to forget self-empathy, which is sensing and feeling into one's own experience and honoring that as well. And then that brings us to mutuality. It's not just a one-way street, it's a two-way street. So we would aspire to reciprocal empathy between all people. Openness. The more we are open and authentic, the more we're really expressing our true nature, the more people react to that. And And that's important for establishing true community, knowing exactly what the other person feels and what's important to them. And then also care. We're all in a process. None of us is perfect. So we have to have a sense of what's necessary for the health, welfare, and well-being of oneself and others. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. And then I'm going to pass it on to Edwin, who will talk about the Mentimeter. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So we were talking about the values of a culture of empathy, as Bill's saying. It's not just, hey, here's this process, but we're really developing an empathic way of being and a culture of empathy. And part of that is really hearing what everyone's values are, what people are feeling, what their values are. So we had sent out a link to just asking the group, what are your 3 most important values? So I just want to show you here what we came up with. And it looks like compassion is really big in this cohort. So we have, it's like the more people that have, have selected a value, the larger the word is in the word cloud. So compassion, honesty, which is sort of that openness that Bill was talking about. The more open we are, the more honest, the deeper our empathy can be. Authenticity is again like honesty, that openness to share yourself. And certainly in the empathy circle, everyone can be open and as transparent as the more you are, the deeper the empathy is. And so these are just self-love, greatness, learning, dependability, peace, humility, mercy, kindness, clarity. So we're going to be doing a little bit later in the empathy circle is saying, how do you feel that your values, be it acceptance or curiosity, relate to a culture of empathy and relate to empathy? So we'll be exploring that a little bit later. But before we do that, we just want to remind you of how to take part, how to do the empathy circle. And you really want to pay attention to this because next week you're going to be presenting this how-to explanation and just getting you some practice to do that. And Lou is going to be leading that part right now.
Thanks, Edwin. Yeah, so so I think everyone here has participated in at least 1 or 2 empathy circles, so you do understand something about how the process works already. And so the reason for doing this is actually because introducing the empathy circle is one of the things that a facilitator does, explains to people what the process is. And so it's very good to hear other various people describe how the empathy circle works and what your role as a facilitator is. And so that's part of the reason for having this explanation. So this is the way I do it. And I try to keep it under 5 minutes. You don't want to overwhelm people with, too much information, every little detail about the circle. Just give them a basic idea of how it works, and then they learn actually by doing it more. And it's important to say a little something about what your role is as a facilitator, what your role will be. So I do it like this. So so we're going to be doing the empathy circle process, and this is how it works. The purpose of the process is for each person to have a chance to speak and feel heard, to feel understood and heard. And so the way it works is that someone will be the speaker, and before they start speaking, they will select another person in the circle to be their reflector, to reflect back what they're saying. So everyone in the circle listens to the speaker. Some people listen silently. One person is the reflector. And then the speaker starts speaking. And after they get an idea or 2 out, you pause so that the reflector can reflect back what they're hearing. If you don't pause, if you just keep going on, it may be hard for the reflector to hold on to what you are saying. So we ask speakers to pause, and or the reflector may ask the speaker to pause. And the reflector reflects back what they're hearing. The reflector's role is to just reflect back what they understand the speaker is saying and maybe how they feel about it. So the things that we might normally do in conversation, which is ask questions or agree or disagree or add our own experience or any of that. That's not the role of the reflector. The reflector is just to reflect back what they understand the person's trying to get across, and maybe how they feel about it. So the reflector reflects. If the speaker it feels heard, then they could just go on. If they don't feel heard, you could say, no, that's not quite it, it's this, or you got part of it, but you missed this part of it. So the speaking and the reflecting go back and forth until the time is up. So the turns are timed. Typically you do 5-minute turns, 5-minute speaking turns. And so when the time is up, then the reflector becomes the speaker, and they select another person in the circle to become their reflector. And that way the speaking and reflecting goes around so that everybody in the circle has a chance to speak and be a reflector. And that way the goal of everyone having a chance to speak and be heard to their satisfaction is accomplished. As a facilitator, my role will be that I will keep the time, and I will do that on my phone. And when the time is up, you'll hear a chime go off. If I don't think that you hear it, I will hold my phone up as a visual cue. And if you don't seem to hear it by then, I will say something. And when you hear the timer go off, you don't have to like stop right away. It's just a signal to finish up the thought that you are having, and then let the reflector give a reflection, and then it moves on. The other things I will do as a facilitator is, if the speaker is forgetting to pause, I will remind the speaker to pause. And if the reflector is forgetting their role, like they start asking questions or making comments, agreeing or disagreeing, I'll just remind the reflector that their job is to just reflect back what they're hearing the person say. And then the last thing that I will do, if necessary, is if the speaker isn't feeling heard, if it's my perception that the speaker isn't feeling heard, then I may add to the reflection so that the speaker feels heard. Because that's really the goal, is for the speaker to feel heard to their satisfaction. Okay, any questions about the process before we begin? So that's how I do the introduction. I don't know if that was 5 minutes. It probably was around 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions, actually really questions about the process before we go into the breakouts? Yeah, Paula.
Thank you. So the reflection, is it just repeating verbatim what the other person says? Like, what does reflection mean in this context?
Yeah, so yes, it means reflecting back some of the information that the person is saying. It can also mean reflecting back their values or desires, what NVC would call needs. And it also can include the feelings. But something that's really important as a facilitator is that the people you will have in circles will come with very different capacities for hearing those things. And it's really important to be accepting of wherever people are, and for them to learn about different, more skillful reflection by hearing other people do it, by watching other people do it. And that is also one of the things that you bring as a facilitator to the circle. If you develop your capacity, and when you are reflecting, because this is the thing, another thing about this process is the facilitator is a equal participant in the circle. So you have a speaking turn and you're doing reflecting, and so people are learning from what you're doing. They're learning, when you're speaking, they're learning about disclosing and authenticity and openness by the fact that you share things, that you're open. And they learn about reflection by the fact, by hearing the way you do it and others in the circle do it. And I would say, and with a new group, I always say, so I'm going to be, because this is a new group, I'm going to be the first reflector. Would someone be willing to be the first listener? And that way, a model of what reflection is present. People get a chance to see that, and it kind of sets a norm for the circle. Any other questions? Thanks for that question, Paula. Larry, you want to make a comment?
I had a question, Lou. You're saying that the active listener reflects back, I think you're saying they're guessing the speaker's feelings and needs. It sounds like you said that. Is that right?
Yes, that could be included as part of what the reflector is saying. You also normally use at least some of what the person actually said so that they know that you heard their words.
Yeah, I'm familiar with reflecting back what the person said, the essence of what the speaker said. This is the first time I've heard it suggested that we guess the feelings and needs of the speaker. Thank you for adding that part. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So I'm passing it on to, I forget who's doing the introduction of the circles or the content. Celine. Yeah, thanks, Celine. You're muted, Celine.
Thank you. So what happens next is we will be breaking up into small groups. Edwin will do that for us. And then we will have 90 minutes together, during which time you will be enjoying an empathy circle. And the topic is the values of the empathy circle. And do we get to put them in the chat? I think so. I think it's nice to have them in the chat. But Bill referred to them. So equality, mutuality, and the freedom. When it's your turn to speak, you can say anything you want, which to me is really, really a key piece here. Because somebody may be frustrated about what somebody else says. And then as facilitator, you can say, when it's your turn, you get to say anything you want. You can express freely. So we have here empathy, mutuality, openness, care. I just mentioned freedom. And other values that will come up as the circle keeps going and you will deepen together. So we will have turns of, I don't remember how many minutes.
Do 5-minute turns.
5-minute turns, which is lovely because you get to really deepen with that. And then after the circles, we'll come back together to debrief before the end of our time together. So is there anything I've missed that somebody wants to share? Yeah.
I just want to say an important thing, a really important thing that I left out was about the content of the circle, which Celine pointed out that the speaker is free to speak about whatever they want. A circle can have a topic or it could have no topic, whatever's alive in you. But even if there's a topic, there's a really strong principle of the circle that when it's your turn to speak, you can speak about whatever you want, whether it's on the topic or not. So thanks for remembering that, Celine. I forgot that.
And I'll mention that I always forget something too in the presentation, but the process of the circle, it sort of self-corrects too. So, and I did put the topic in there. How does one or more of your values relate to empathy or a culture of empathy or whatever's alive for you? And we're going to, we have 4 groups. The first one will be facilitated by Dwayne. And that'll be here we'll stay in this main waiting room. And then room 2 will be by Wendy. You'll facilitate that. And room 3 is Altonia. We'll facilitate that. The trainees are facilitating. And since we just have 3 trainees, Celine, could you facilitate the 4th room? And we have about an hour and 20, how long do we have? Yeah, about a little bit less than 90 minutes, I guess, for this part. So and I'll send a 10-minute warning before we come back to the full room. So yeah, we have about an hour. No, he's had an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, so here we go into the breakout rooms and see you there. And Linda, you and Dwayne and I are here in this main room, and we're here with Kelly and Jay.
Well, that's good because I want to provide Linda with additional guidance and training that she will need. So I'm glad that she's here to receive that. You're muted, Linda. Hello, Linda, you're on mute. It's okay to.
Just said, okay.
What were you saying?
I was saying, you are my friend, and I'm glad you're here to support me. What would I do without you?
I feel the same way.
Oh, I forgot we're being recorded. Okay.
Okay. We'll behave ourselves. That's right. This
Yes.
is very professional.
Okay. Yes. Now,
Yep,
who's
I'd like
you're the
to-
trainee? Yeah. Do you want me to keep time? What do you want me to do? Just be quiet?
Sure. You're welcome. It's great if you'd like to keep time. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Because you're facilitating the group.
Yes, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Let me just say that I will be using my phone, y'all, and you should hear a beep. If not, I'll do like Lou and just hold it up. And like you said, you don't have to stop in the middle of the sentence, whether you're speaking or reflecting, just finish your thought. And it's 5 minutes, right? Okie dokie.
Okay. All right, I'll get started. I'd like to welcome Kelly J and welcome you to your first facilitation training. As we're gonna speak to the question of how do you feel that one or more of your values relate to empathy or culture, or the culture of empathy, or whatever's alive for you in this particular circle. You're gonna have 5 minutes to speak each. I'm going to be the facilitator today, so I will start by being the first listener, and then I will ask for a volunteer to be the first speaker. And just really briefly, again, we've all participated in the process. There's a speaker, there's the active listener and the silent listeners. And it's really important to, that we're all mindful and present so that we can hold the space together, especially as facilitators. For me, before I begin facilitating, I always take a moment to gather myself, to a moment of silence, to be at peace, to make sure that I'm present and grounded before I get started. Is there any questions before we start? I've posted the questions again in the chat, and I've also posted the values. So, if you'd like to speak to one of those particular values, they're there as a resource for you. I'm going to be the first first listener, as I said. And to demonstrate the process, I'm going to ask you, Linda, to be the first speaker.
Okay. All right. My core values are dependability, honesty, and authenticity. And in terms of the empathy circle and authenticity, in order for it to be, I don't want to say work, but productive and effective, one has to be authentic.
Linda, if I understand correctly, your core values are authenticity, dependability, and
honesty.
And these values are important not only for you in your life, but also you believe they're important for the process of doing an empathy circle.
Yes.
That these are on display.
Yes. When a person is speaking and you're reflecting back to them what they're saying, either the actual words or summarizing it or whatever, I think it gives that person, the speaker, comfort in knowing someone is listening.
You think it's really important that for the person who's speaking and who's I mean, for the person who's the speaker and the person reflecting back to them, that the other person is authentic in what they're responding to, that they're actually listening to their words, that they're reflecting back in a manner that lets them know they're listening.
Well, yes, and when they reflect back to the speaker, it lets the speaker know that they are being heard. They're not
And
talking
so
in
in
the
that,
air.
oh,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Go ahead.
And
go
in
ahead.
that process of, oh, excuse me again. In that process of reflecting back, they're letting know that the speaker is being heard. They're affirming
Yes.
them and their presence in the
And
process.
and I believe once the speaker feels that they are being heard, it's an action, being heard, they'll get more comfortable and relate in a more authentic manner.
And as the speaker begins to feel like they're actually being heard, there's an opportunity to feel safe and to begin to speak in a more authentic manner for the speaker.
Yes, because this is my opinion that we all wear masks. We have a mask for our personal lives, we have a mask for our professional lives, and we have a mask for our social lives.
In your opinion, we wear a diversity of masks. We wear a mask in our personal lives, in our social lives, in our professional lives.
Yes, and when someone is sitting down and intentionally listening to you, you'll feel like I can take the mask off. I can be myself. I can say what's really on my mind because there is no judgment in the empathy circle process.
And you believe that when the person who's speaking begins to feel like they're really heard, they can remove those masks and they can speak from deep inside themselves and feel comfortable sharing and being authentic in what they're sharing.
Yeah, that's true because, so many times when we say things, well, I'm learning to think before I say. I used to just say it and then want to, suck the words back in. But when you think about what you're about to say, then you choose your words. I do choose my words more carefully.
You wanted to add that you used to speak without thinking in your earlier days, but with experience and seasoning, you think before you speak now, and you think that's really important
Yes.
to think about something before we share it.
Yes, because to me, the empathy circle is about speaking and hearing. Speaking with the words that you use and how they are received by the listener.
You believe the empathy circles really is about speaking and listening, speaking and being heard. And that's the essence of the process.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna have to hold up the sign. I'm sorry, because it's not making a sound like I thought it would. So time is up. Yes.
Okay. And just as a reminder to everyone, after the speaker finished speaking, usually the speaker will say something like, I feel heard to my satisfaction. I feel completely heard, or something of that nature.
Yeah. Yes. True. Thank you, Dwayne.
You're welcome. Thank you, Linda. And so now as having been the active listener, I become the speaker, and then I will pick someone else to be my listener. And I was wondering, Jay, would you like to be my listener?
I would love to be your listener.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to combine the two things. I'm going to speak more about what's alive for me, but as it relates to core values.
So you're combining both questions, talking about core values, but also, how it relates to a culture of empathy. Is that right?
Yes. And what's alive for me at the moment.
Oh yeah, and what's alive for you? Yeah.
Yes. I think that for me, one of the most important values is for myself is self-love.
So self-love is a very important value to you.
Yes. And I believe that I see the world, I experience the world based on how I think and I speak about the world.
So you experience the world based on how you think and speak about the world.
Yes. And so what I think about, what I speak to really shapes my experience and forms my relationships with other people.
So what you think about and speak about, it really impacts your experience and how you relate to the world and the people in it.
Yes. And so when it comes to it's interesting. I think empathy, self-empathy plays a really important role in how I experience life.
So the empathy and self-empathy is really important for how you're experiencing your life.
Yes, because my ability to love myself or to be empathetic with myself or experience self-empathy, I believe is what builds my capacity to share those things with the rest of the world.
So your ability to practice self-love and self-empathy is what allows you to have the capacity to give those same things, love and empathy, to the world around you.
Yes, and the older I get, the more that my body changed, the health challenges that I'm working with, the more challenging it is to apply those things to my everyday life.
Yeah, so the older you get, and that more hectic things get, the harder it is for you to be able to apply these ideas of self-love and empathy to yourself.
And in fact, the interesting part about it is it's even more important as I age to actually apply these things, to work on these things on a daily basis.
Yeah, and so you feel as you age, it's even more important to be able to practice these ideas of self-love and self-empathy. Yeah, it's just more important as you get older.
And it's even more important to have an awareness of how I communicate with myself, which is really how I experience the world.
Yeah, and so a big part of it is having this awareness of how you communicate with yourself in order to have this awareness.
And so for me, one of the really great things about the empathy circle is it's a great opportunity to practice out loud how I'm thinking and communicating with myself.
So you really appreciate the empathy circles because you get to experience the act of practicing these skills of self-love, of self-empathy.
And the reflection process, I get to hear what I'm thinking and saying out loud.
Yeah, and as we're reflecting, you're thinking what you're feeling and hearing, you're thinking what you're feeling out loud.
And it's I find it very helpful. I find it energizing. And I think it's really important to share this opportunity with the rest of the world so that people can experience excuse me, some of the same benefits that I've experienced from it.
Yeah, and so this process has really helped you. And because it's helped you, you think it's really important to be able to share this with the world in order to be able to increase our skills around empathy and self-love.
And so, yeah, so people can celebrate the benefits of this as well, other people.
Yeah, so other people could also celebrate the benefits of this. Cool.
Thank you, Jay. I feel fully heard.
Great.
And,
I guess, let's see. Kelly, will you be my listener?
Sure.
So I think I'm going to talk about values, and I guess also the same, combine the two. So values and what's alive for me.
So you think you're going to talk about values, and you're also going to combine and what's alive for you.
So the values I had were openness, authenticity, and I think I wrote curiosity, but it meant more inquisitive.
So you think you put openness, authenticity, and maybe curiosity or inquisitive, you said?
Yeah. And I'm leaning towards like inquisitive because for me, curiosity and openness for me are similar, but inquisitive is more like a detective, or like a philosopher.
So you're leaning more towards inquisitive because it's more like a detective or a philosopher rather than curiosity and openness are similar.
Yeah. I think that there's so many systems that we're in, and there's so much stimulation that we're always experiencing that people have to work harder to see the world as it actually is.
Yes, so you believe there's a lot of stimulation going on in the world, and it's harder to actually see the world how it is.
And, we get into these smaller and smaller micro communities, which feel like, oh, I'm being heard. But it actually can kind of mean, the dumbing down of our ability to be able to experience difference.
So we get into these little micro communities and can you repeat them?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's it's lessening our ability, like dumbing down our ability to experience differences.
It's dumbing down our ability to experience differences.
And yeah, and I think that a lot of these micro communities can be valuable, especially since, we live in such an alienated like society.
You think that these micro communities can be beneficial because we live in such an alienated society?
Yeah, like people feel so disconnected from each other, because of our lives and, the whole like, structure of our economic system. And we live in a very individualistic society.
I think people feel disconnected from each other because we live in a very individualistic society.
Yeah. And yeah, and so I think that people right now are really looking for communities. And in the past, the communities were held by the institutions, like schools and churches.
So you think people are looking for these communities because, excuse me, in the past, people were going to school and churches where they would find that community.
Yeah, and it feels like there's more and more people that don't trust either of those institutions for a lot of good reasons. And that distrust is is making people look for communities in other ways and like on the internet.
Yeah, you feel like people are losing trust in those communities, and so they're going to the internet now.
You know,
to find
and it's
that.
not all like an inherently negative thing, but there are sort of a lot of like, you know, not great people that are actively recruiting for horrible causes, you know, and they end up taking a lot of these people that feel like they have no community to go to.
So you think the people in these institutions are, they kind of have either a bad reputation or they're targeting others in a negative sense, maybe?
Yeah, you know, there's just some bad actors, a lot of bad actors on the internet, and I worry about that influence. So yeah, that was it.
A lot of bad actors on the internet, and you worry about that influence.
Yeah. Yep, that's my time, I guess. And okay, yep, good.
Thank you.
And
Do you
again,
feel-
I feel hurt. Thank you.
thank you, Kelly.
Edwin, would you
Mhm.
be my listener?
Listening.
Thank you. So let's see. The topic is, how does one or more value relate to? Okay, one of my values was peace. So I'll reflect on how peace relates to empathy and a culture of empathy.
Okay, one of your values is peace, and that's what you want to explore, how that relates to a culture of empathy and empathy.
Yes, I'm very interested in inner peace and world peace. And so this empathy circle can, I think, lead to individual peace and world peace when we get together and talk to each other.
So you see that, well, you're interested in sort of an inner peace and a broader outer world peace. And you think that empathy or empathy circles can contribute to that?
Yes. So empathy is sensing and feeling into the experience of others. And so when we sit down and talk to people, we can really sense what they feel by just listening to what they're experiencing.
Yeah, when you sit down with people, you can just listen to them, empathize with them, and you can sense into what they're experiencing.
Yes, and also when you speak, you get into more of the self empathy and what you're experiencing and how to share that.
Yeah, when you're as a speaker, like now you're the speaker, you can sense into your own experience, and that's a self-empathy.
Yes, and so I think the more we do it, the better. It's definitely, I think, takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yes, and being open, is a challenge for me. So I'm trying, because I think I take little bits of pieces of information at a time. So it's like I go a little slower than others maybe.
I didn't catch that. Something about going slower than others, little pieces of information. Your video audio broke up.
Oh, sorry. I was saying it's kind of a challenge for me because I think I take little bits of information at a time. And so I have to like slow down the process.
Oh, you take in little bits of information at a time. And because of that, you want to slow down the process.
Yeah. Also, I think what's helpful for me is to take notes. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing for this process. But
Yeah, you find it helpful, hey, to take some notes, and you're just kind of curious, is this good or bad for this process? You're not quite sure there.
and one of my other values was kindness, and that also leads to empathy because we get to just sit down and be kind to each other and not judge or respond with our opinion, but just be kind and listen to what someone else has to say.
So another one of your values is just being kind, and you see that the empathy circle, we're just sitting and listening to each other, and that's maybe expresses kindness too.
Yes. It's also being aware and mindful of what's going on in your brain and the other person's brain.
Yeah, there's something about the mindfulness to be aware of what's coming up in your brain and the other person's brain too. So an awareness of that, mindful of it.
Yes, and so I think this can create like a culture of empathy and a culture of peace, the more we spread it out to each other, because I think it's a very fast society and this really slows down the process of communication.
So you see that what we're doing in the empathy circle can really slow down the conversation with such a fast culture, and that contributes to peace and kindness.
Yes, and I liked what someone said when we did an empathy circle. It's just like just being in the moment, and it's very slow.
So you really like what someone said about the empathy circle. It's just being in the moment, and it's very slow. And I'm hearing maybe a sense of appreciation or value of that.
Yeah, thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, thanks. Linda, can I speak to you? Yeah, you're muted.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of the core values, mine are empathy and the mutuality. I just see that empathy, value of empathy and mutuality is sort of the starting point for a lot of constructive values, other values.
So your core value is empathy and mutuality, and you see that as the jumping off point for communicating.
Yeah, it's like you don't even need care, you don't need kindness per se to start with. It's like, I hate you, but I'm willing to listen to you, and you're willing to listen to me. So if there's like conflict, people are really angry with each other, if they're just willing to empathize and listen to each other, it just starts the constructive healing cycle, it seems to me.
And so you're saying it doesn't even have to be kindness and caring when you start off, just your willingness and ability to listen to the other person, even though they have a different point of view. And that's where that mutuality, I may not agree, but I will agree to listen to you. And
Yeah.
that's where it all starts.
Yeah. And it's like what was being said about, you start listening to someone else, and it's like, I noticed that care just sort of emerges. If I just listen and dialogue with someone long enough, I start seeing their humanity, and sort of care comes out of that. A sense of, oh, wow, I see the real connection between you and I as fellow humans. So the care emerges.
So when you just sit and listen and for what to a person for a while, the caring, the humanity, that part of humanity that's about caring comes out, and you can eventually find a common agreement. You can find something you can agree on.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
you
connection.
find that connection.
Yeah.
And I think you were saying it about authenticity and honesty, that as you develop that trust, just, oh, everybody here is going to listen to me, which is like get more trusting of the space. It creates more, I feel more open and more authentic. And then the sense of kindness and I think peace and these different values sort of build from there. So I just see that empathy and mutuality is sort of like core building blocks too.
So again, empathy and mutuality to you is the core building blocks, because when you engage with the other person and you're actually listening to them and they're listening, then you feel more open, more willing to share in that space and be authentic with yourself. So again, empathy and mutuality is the core.
Yeah, and then there's also I think, a principle of being willing to listen to everyone. It's like 8 billion people in the world. I'm willing to listen to everybody, have an empathic dialogue with everyone, no matter what sort of their background, Putin or whatever, Trump. I'm willing to sit down and have a dialogue.
Okay, and so you mentioned one of the principles is having the willingness to sit down and have a dialogue and listen. You even mentioned people like Putin and Trump. You're willing to sit down and dialogue with them.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure what that value is. It's just being open to everyone. And also the second is sort of making an effort to reach out. I've reached out, gone to Republican conventions and Democrat conventions. So making an effort to reach out to different sides. And so making that effort, I guess, for the cause of empathy.
And you can't really find a word that's a value for that, but what you're conveying to us is that it's the willingness to reach out, to put yourself out there, to listen to other people, even if they have opposing views.
Yeah, I think it's Jay is saying, people get into their smaller groups and then they're like, they might not be willing to reach out to other groups. And it's that reaching out that I think is important, sort of actively, taking some steps to reach out.
Yeah. And you're referencing back to what Jay said about people get into smaller groups and they're comfortable there and they resist, or they don't have the willingness to reach out of that safety zone, to reach out and connect with other people outside of that group.
And something that comes to me too is about, I'll end there.
Yeah, finish your thought.
Oh, it's just that, like a cult, for example, tries to block you from connecting with others. They say, don't talk to your family, they're bad, or these people are bad. So they make your world smaller and disconnect you from others. And what we're doing in the empathy circle is be willing to listen and empathically dialogue with anyone.
And you see the empathy circle is like the opposite of what cults do when they try to cut their members off from everything else and just listen to what's being said and believed in that little group. The empathy circle is open to everyone. We're willing to listen. We invite everybody in.
Yeah, feel very well heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Excuse me for one moment. I just want to point out to the other trainees that it was really good what Linda just demonstrated, reminding Edwin that even though his time was up, you can still finish your point. And I think it's really important to emphasize that. So thank you, Linda.
Okay. All right, I'm going to pick Jay, if she would listen to me. And I picked you, Jay, because I did, what you were saying resonated with me, and I did make notes so I could remember when it was my turn, what I wanted to say.
So, yeah, you mentioned that you took some notes and because you resonated with what I had said earlier and you wanted to reference back to.
Yes. What you were saying about people going into their little, I call it bubbles. They go into their little bubbles and they're safe in the bubble and they don't want anybody coming in or going outside of that bubble because it's safe for them.
Yes. Sorry. So you're speaking about how people get into these little bubbles and that bubble is basically a safety zone for them and they don't want to step out of that bubble because it's their safety zone.
Yes, and I think with COVID, a lot of us, including me, went into our bubbles just because we were limited in the number of people we could have contact with.
Yeah, and so with COVID, it limited the amount of people that we could have contact with, which made us go into, even smaller bubbles.
Yeah, and I specifically me. There was a small group of us that worked out together in this private gym. And even though the gym was closed, we had the code to get in. And so we would agree to meet at a certain time and go in there and work out together.
So you're referencing a gym that that you used to go to with a group of folks, and the gym was closed during COVID, but because you had the code, you would set a time to go and work out together.
Yeah, so we worked out and we had our social time as we worked out. Then the other day I met this lady and she was, I can't remember the conversation, but she mentioned during COVID with her children or her child, they had a certain group of parents that they felt safe with. And those parents and the children, they communed together.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned that you knew of like a parent group, basically, and the parent group felt safe to be with each other. And that was their little, bubble.
Yes. And so when you said that, I said, yeah, that's probably some of the reason we're in this individualistic world right now. We all got our own little bubbles.
Yeah, and that's, you're speaking to how that's why we're in this like sort of individualistic world, because we all have these bubbles.
Yes. And we don't want anybody inside and we don't want anybody out leaving the group because it's all comfortable right there.
Mm-hmm. And so, in these groups, we don't want people leaving or coming in because we want to keep it the way it is
Right.
for it to be comfortable.
And I'm very aware of politics and what's going on today, especially with the midterms coming up. And with this empathy circle, it's teaching me to listen to what people are saying and just listening to these differing groups and the hostility they have toward each other is an example of you can't come in and you can't go out.
So, you're doing this political work now with elections coming up and everything. And you're talking to people that have sort of a hatred, in the way they speak, about the other side, and listening to both groups, with this, these feelings about each other. It's I kind of forgot the last part, but yeah, you're talking about having to listen to these two sides, as they're talking about each other, a bit hatefully.
Yeah, they don't want, and now I'm starting to realize that it's not so much hate as it is fear, because if somebody comes into the bubble that does not agree with me, that makes me have to reconsider what I'm thinking and my beliefs. And if I go outside and interact with someone that does, so it's more, I think it's just more of a fear that we have of being challenged, our beliefs being challenged.
So, it's less of a hate and more of a fear, because people don't like to have their beliefs challenged, because it's very scary for people to have, their whole point of view, their whole worldview challenged like that. So, that's why we sort of tend to stick within our circles.
Thank you. I feel fully heard, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you. I will, Dwayne, will you be my listener?
Yes.
Yeah. It's very interesting for me to be in Portland, Oregon, at this moment in time. Because, on the one hand, like, there's a lot of beliefs here, widespread beliefs and mentalities that very much resonate with me on so many different levels in terms of progressiveness.
Jay, this is an interesting time for you to be living in Portland, Oregon, a place that's known for being progressive. And there's a lot of these quote progressive ideas that resonate with you.
And, I've spent a lot of time in Tallahassee, Florida, and Memphis, Tennessee, where on some levels there's progressive politics, but not so much. There's diversity of opinion.
You've spent a lot of time in Tallahassee, Florida, and Memphis, Tennessee, and where there's a diversity of opinions and perhaps even some progressive thinking that exists there.
Yeah, and being in those environments was challenging for me, but it also led to a lot of growth and self-development.
Being in the environment of Tallahassee and Memphis, which is located in the South, was a bit challenging for you, but at the same time, it presented opportunities for personal growth.
Yeah, and sometimes I worry about being in Portland and not getting exposed to different opinions as much, and being in a little bit of a bubble. It does feel like a little bit of a bubble here.
Thinking about your current experience in Portland and the people and ideas that you interact with on a regular basis, you feel like you may be living in a bubble because you're not being exposed to the same level of diversity of thought that you were in other communities you lived
in. Yeah, and I also think that on the other hand, I am far more leftist than the vast majority of people, even in Portland.
And at the same time, you feel that you're even further to the left than the people you interact with or the people of Portland are perceived to be.
Yeah, I work a lot with the city, and I'm on the Police Accountability Commission. And so I'm in these institutions, and the people around me do not think like me at all,
You're very involved in the community there in Portland. You're on the Police Accountability Commission, and you mentioned one other institution, but you're connected with the institution, the infrastructure of the city. And in your experience so far, there's no one that thinks anything like you.
Yeah, and so it's interesting to be here and be part of the push to try new things and do what was thought of as unimaginable,
And so it's also interesting for you to be where you are and to challenge the system, to push for things that I think you're saying that you never believed were imaginable, or perhaps that people didn't believe could be imaginable.
Yeah. And one of those things is like Measure 110, which decriminalized all drugs, and, working on the Measure 109 campaign, which legalized psychedelic assisted therapy, and, trying new things that even that's outside of the mainstream. It's still, fringe, but the movement's growing,
And you mentioned some of the local initiatives, one that decriminalized all drugs, and another one that is allowing the use of psychedelics in various medical treatments.
Yeah, so I always have this sort of internal struggle between I should move back to the South and do the real work, and the fascism is really rising there, but also feeling like here I could really, really try new things, versus I can't do that in other places.
One of the challenges you've experienced, these guys, is described as a personal struggle, this idea that, why don't I go back to the South and do some real work? Because there's this need, the growing fascism that you think is growing in the South, in that region. But at the same time, you think, well, I'm on the cutting edge here. Not cutting edge, but you're doing new things that have been never done before. And there's a possibility to play a role in this as you continue to explore new ideas.
Yeah, exactly. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, for the opportunity. Kelly, would you like to be my listener?
Sure.
For me, as usual, and Kelly, I appreciate your excitement. As usual, my mind is in so many different places. There's so many things that are being said that resonate with me.
So per usual, your mind is in a lot of different places. There's a lot of things that resonate with you.
Yeah, and at the and I also want to emphasize that a part of that being mindful, I'm able to explore all these different ideas that are coming out by being present.
So you want to point out that being mindful is by being mindful, you're able to explore all these ideas that are coming out in the present.
Yes, and so there's all these different conversations that I would like to have individually at the same time.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different conversations you would like to have individually with others at the same time.
One of the things that's really alive for me, as usual, is this idea of creating a new way or a different way of communicating positive or healthy change in the world.
So one of the things that's really alive for you is this being a way to create positive change in the world.
By creating a different way of communicating about it.
By creating a different way of communicating.
And because I think that what we're doing here represents a tremendous opportunity for connecting first with myself and then connecting with people all over the world.
So what we're doing here is a great opportunity to one, connect with yourself and then to connect with the rest of the world.
And I think it's really important that I'm aware of how I'm communicating, the words that I'm choosing.
I think it's really important that you're aware of how you're communicating and the words that you're using.
Yes, because in order to do something different, I believe that we need to communicate differently.
So in order to do something different, you believe that we need to communicate differently.
Yeah, it's not just having these new innovative ideas, but it's communicating about them in a different way.
So it's not just about having new ideas or innovative ideas, it's how to communicate those ideas as well.
Yeah, so I believe there's really a need for us to reevaluate our language and to have this, in a sense, like an AI in our something that I'm monitoring, aware and of what words I'm choosing and making the adjustments real time.
So you think we should be aware of the words that we're using and have the AI to maybe track those words and see how we're thinking and speaking.
I also think excuse me, Kelly.
In real time.
I also think it's really important that I'm responsible for the words that I use, that I speak to, that I speak for myself, and as often as possible that I'm aware of this and that I don't speak for other people, that I don't generalize.
I think it's really important that you're responsible for your own words and that you don't generalize, but you speak for yourself.
Especially in an empathy circle, because I believe that if I'm speaking for myself and it's an authentic voice that's coming out, there's an opportunity for me to connect with people at that level, to connect with someone else in the group on that level.
So there's an opportunity to connect with someone in the group on that personal level when you can be authentic.
And so for me, it's really important that I'm aware of that and that I'm reminded to do that, because I think it's important for the idea of having this mutuality and to be able to empathize with others.
I think it's important that you're aware of that, and to be able to empathize with others.
And have this sense of mutuality, this
Have a sense of mutuality.
shared experience. Thank
Shared.
you. Excuse me. Thank you, Kelly. And I feel heard to my satisfaction.
Thank you. Okay. Linda, will you be my listener?
Yes, yes, Kelly, I'm here.
Okay. So I agree, and I think it's interesting to really focus on the language that we use.
You agree with Dwayne that we need to focus on the language that we use.
Yes, and I also believe it's kind of like what you think about, you attract, and how you speak out into the world, you kind of attract those things back.
You believe that how you speak into the world, into the atmosphere, you attract those things back to you.
Yes, and also how you think. And so I think it's so important to meditate on good things and things that you want, and to visualize what you want in your future.
And this goes for that belief extends to how you think. And you believe we should meditate on goodness, on the things that we want to see in the world.
Yes, and I think maybe that's why I made it to this empathy circles, because I've just been like looking for the positives and the good things in the world and how to create peace. And I think this is a way to create peace.
And you believe that's the reason you gravitated to the empathy circles, because you're looking for positivity in the world and a way to create peace. And you think this is a good way to do it.
Yes, I do believe that. And I guess I want to think about how to make this attractive to others and to just spread it far and wide, like the goal of the group.
And you want to spread this far and wide, so you're thinking about ways to attract others to the empathy circle.
Yes, and I think it should be in schools. I think teachers should learn how to be facilitators and have the students do this. I think that would be really good.
And you think it should be in schools, and teachers should be facilitators of these empathy circles, these listening circles.
Yes, and to grow up learning how to take the time to listen, not just think about your response, but what they actually said.
You think it's important for children to learn to listen, and I guess meant just children, but for the children in school to learn to listen and not just respond? I'm not sure if I heard, yeah.
Yeah, adults too, actually, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And what else? Culture of empathy. So I don't know. I think I'll pass it at the moment. I'm good for now.
Oh, okay. So you finished right now. Okay, that's good.
Mhm.
Do you feel fully heard?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so now it's my turn. Okay. Dwight. Okay. Would you listen, Dwight?
Sure.
Okay. So now we're talking about, or the conversation seems to have shifted a little bit to the words that we use. And that's what I want to stay on for right now.
Okay. You feel the conversation shifted to the words that we use to communicate, and you'd like to focus on that right now.
Yes. I remember you telling me one time when we were talking to stop using the word trying. When I said, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that, you said you're either doing it or you aren't. And that has really stuck with me.
You remember a conversation that we had in the past where I suggested that, or encourage you to remove trying from your vocabulary when you're communicating, and it's something that resonated and stayed with you.
Yes, and I've also forwarded that suggestion to some of my friends because I'm really conscious of when I use the word trying now, it's just like, no, you're either doing it or you're not. You know, you're either moving forward or you're not, but you're not trying.
And you've shared this idea with some of your friends, and because really it's something that resonated with you. Either I'm doing it or I'm not doing it. There's no in between space.
Yes, yes, and I'm very opinionated, and I have friends, past and present, that I tell them, you know, don't ask me unless you really want to know, because I'm gonna tell you.
You have a very assertive personality. You described it as being opinionated, and so you told your friends in the past and the present, don't ask me because I'm going to tell you if you ask me what you.
So, you know, women and girls, well, women, we talk about relationships, whether it's the children, the husbands, the parents, or whatever. And I used to say, well, let me tell you what you should do. You should do A, B, C, D. And I have learned not to say what you should do. Let me suggest that you consider. And I still get the same point over, but I'm not saying, let me tell you what you should do. And thank God I recognize that that was not what I was trying to convey to them. I was trying to convey a suggestion, but I kept using the word should.
You also had the experience in the past where well, first you started by saying you believe that women and girls often speak about relationships with their diversity of relational partners. And when someone would come to you for advice or something of that nature, you would tell them, well, you should do this or not, you should not do this or that. And having this new awareness of how you use language, you realize that that wasn't your intention, that your intention was really to share information. And so you've removed that word should when you're communicating and sharing information with people who come to you for help.
Yes. So, you know, suggestions you've made during our conversation and the empathy circle, actually participating in the empathy circle, I'm more conscious, I'm more aware of the effects words have on the meaning that you're trying to convey, if that makes sense.
Yeah, through some of the suggestions that I've made in the past and through the empathy circle process, you've gained you start by saying consciousness and awareness of how the impact of language and the importance of the words that we choose to communicate with.
Yes, thank you. And I'm like Kelly, that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
And similar to Kelly, that's about all you have to say at the moment. And thank you.
I'm done. Okay.
It's
So
okay to have fun sometime, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
Yes.
All right.
Definitely.
Now it's my turn. Oh, first of all, did you feel heard?
I feel fully heard. Yes, fully heard. Thank you, Dwayne.
You're welcome, Linda. And now it's my turn to be the speaker. I think we have enough for about 4 more turns, enough time for about 4 more turns approximately. Edwin, would you like to be my listener?
Yeah, listening.
I'm really energized about the current topic.
Feeling a lot of energy about the current topic.
Yes, because thank you, Linda, for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're feeling appreciation and gratitude for Linda sharing her story with you.
Yeah, I've been on this journey for many years now of changing the way that I communicate and having awareness of how I communicate.
So you've been on this journey where you're really changing the way you communicate with people.
Yes, and I believe, like, I don't remember where we got this quote, but I love this quote that says, "When one teaches to learn."
Mhm.
Oh, do you want me to repeat that?
Oh, there's just a quote that you find very helpful. It's like when one teaches to learn.
Oh, when one teaches, both parties learn, or
Oh,
to
when
learn.
one teaches, both parties learn.
And so part of I part of why I challenge other people to think about how they use language is that I want to create allies and people who will also challenge me and help me build the capacity and build an awareness of how I use language for the rest of my life.
So the reason you challenge people about how they use language is because you hope that they're going to challenge you, and that's going to contribute to you developing and growing.
And through this process, we learn to communicate differently, and we're making the world a little bit better place to live in.
Yeah, and through this process, if you mean the empathy circle process, that we're making the world, we're learning to make the world a better place, or by doing it, we're making the world a little bit better.
Yeah, this process, along with this awareness of how I use language or how we use language.
Yeah, it's this process as well as just sort of an awareness of how you're using language, or how we is in general use it.
And it's not about telling somebody else how to be, how to think, how to experience life. It's suggesting that there's another way.
Yeah, it's like not that you're telling people how to be, but just saying, hey, maybe there's a different way. It's sort of making a suggestion to think outside the box or something. Yeah.
Yes. Because, it's interesting. I learned in psychology that the human brain doesn't know what's real and what's not real. It only knows what the inputs, what we believe to be true.
So one of your learnings from psychology was that the brain doesn't know what's real or not. It's just from the inputs it receives that it has that tries to make sense of that out of the inputs.
And everything is a construct. And because everything is a construct, I have a choice in my inputs and outputs.
Because you're saying that everything is a construct, and because of that, you have a choice of what you take in and what you put out.
And I'll give a simple example. I was labeled as an at-risk youth when I was young.
And you want to tell a story that an example, and you were labeled as an at-risk youth when you were young.
And at first I was like, yeah, I'm an at-risk youth and I need help and I need services.
And your first reaction was, yeah, you're right. I need services. I need, help.
But then I began to think about this idea of being an at-risk youth. It's like calling somebody a slave and not somebody who, human beings that were enslaved. It puts the onus on the person.
So it's sort of, it's by using that terminology, it's putting the onus on the person. And yeah.
Yeah, it's, for me, it's like, you know, for many, and my time is up, so I'll be short. This idea of being a slave took the responsibility away from the people who were enslaving these human beings, while taking away their humanity by defining them in those terms.
So by saying that you're a slave, the person who's saying that is sort of taking away the humanity of the person and sort of the responsibility, in the same way that this person's at risk. It's taking away the responsibility for the person who's kind of using that terminology.
Or the society that puts them at risk.
Or the society is creating that condition that.
Yes. I have a lot more to say, but my time is up.
Okay.
So thank you, Edwin.
Yeah.
I feel fully heard.
Hope it'll come around again. Jay, can I speak to you?
Sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking of what Kelly was saying about note taking. I do take notes while I'm a silent listener because I forget all these ideas. Like I jot down what I'm hearing people say, as well as, oh, I have an idea about that, so I can go back to it.
So you're saying that, you know, while you're listening to everyone else, while you're a silent listener, you're taking some notes, you know, make sure you don't miss anything, make sure that, you know, you can refer back to some of the things that were said in the previous shares.
Yeah, and one of the things was, I guess it was about, you know, being willing to listen to everyone, you know, being open, but it's within the context of an empathic dialogue. It's like if people say, hey, I want a debate, or I want a boxing match, or I want, you know, here's the context. I say, no, I'm not interested in that context. I'm willing to have an empathic dialogue with you.
So, you know, you're saying that in terms of kind of this mutual interaction, like it has to show up in a specific way. It has to be an empathetic dialogue, not just like a debate or like a boxing match. It's not just going back and forth with people. It's this this mutualistic, empathetic environment that you're interested in conversing with people.
Exactly. And it's for me, that feels safe. Like I always feel safe in an empathy circle if everybody follows the rules, you know, the process. And it's like there's nothing you can say that is gonna, you know, is gonna probably, you know, just floor me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so being in an empathy circle in this way, you know, you feel a lot like you still feel safe. Like you feel like there's nothing that someone could say that could really just like jolt you. And so this is like an inherently sort of safe environment for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe enough in the sense that I've had people say, oh, what you're doing is a waste of time. You know, really kind of put down kind of stuff. You're being totally ineffective. You know, people aren't sticking around, or this kind of stuff. And I can feel sort of the twinge in my heart, you know, as people send these. But I still know, yeah, this is an empathy circle. I'll listen, I'll reflect back, and I'll be there, and I'll have my chance to respond, you know, afterwards. So I still can feel pain, you know, but you know, I still got a space. Yeah.
So, you know, you're saying that, you know, people have said some pretty difficult things to you in this space and have, you know, delegitimized, you know, these spaces through their comments, but, you know, you're still able to really take that, listen to that, and not necessarily let it affect you in, you know, a really horrible way. And, you know, just be able to respond after a certain time rather than, you know, just reacting.
Yeah, I'll still have fear, pain, you know, whatever, but there's also the space of the circle of the listening and the presence, and so they're mutual, but it's enough that it's not where the pain or the anger kind of takes over the whole space, you know, and I just respond and I stop listening. So I still maintain that empathic space, can't generally in the circle.
Yeah, so you're still experiencing these really difficult emotions like, pain, fear, anger. You're still experiencing these things, but you're also be able to be present in a way that, those really difficult emotions don't completely take over and then just, hijack, your ability to be present and cause you to blow up on people. So, the space really mediates for that by infusing, presence into the empathy circles.
Yeah, hijack is a good word for it. And the other is I'm also willing to be the first to listen, because I think there's all this talk about free speech, but they don't talk about free empathy, right? It's you have the freedom to speak, but you also have the responsibility to listen. And I think that that's really missing from the American, psyche. It's all about, hey, I'm going to have free speech, but hey, there's responsibility of free listening. And I think that's important too.
Yeah, so, people in the US often focus on free speech and being able to say whatever they want. But, there's another side to that where people also need to be able to listen at the same time. So, it's too many people in the US, according to you, are really focusing on that one side of speaking, but they're not doing any work around really increasing their listening skills. And you think that those things should be tied together.
Yeah, and I am willing to be the first to listen. Like I just finished in the empathy tent when we set up that it's like, come and I'll be the first listener, right? I'm willing to just listen, to be the first listener. But then I always try to move, towards let's have it be mutual. I'll sort of prime the pump. I'm willing to be the first listener, but the overall goal is for it to become mutual.
So yeah, you said that you're really willing to be that first listener and really to show up like, in the tents at the events, for example, and be the first one to really listen to people in order to have that, eventually mutual interaction. But, you have this willingness and openness to be the first person to, put yourself out there as the first listener in order to create this, mutual exchange.
I feel deeply heard. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Linda, do you want to be my listener? You're muted.
All right, I'm here for you. Yes.
Let's see. What do I even want to talk about? There's so many things. I was just thinking about just the difficulties of communicating with people that don't have a mutual understanding.
You're thinking about having a conversation with people that don't have a mutual understanding.
Yeah, and don't
the difficulty.
Yeah, exactly. And like don't have this sense of like reciprocity.
They don't have a sense of reciprocity.
And it just feels like there's a lot of people who I think probably grew up maybe feeling deeply unheard and have this mentality of it's my time now,
And you're thinking maybe it's originated from the way they were brought up in that environment when they felt no one listened. So now they feel like it's my turn.
Yeah. And, it's the way people were brought up. It was the way we were schooled. It's the way we interacted in, our spiritual communities. It just feels like there's been kind of a universal disempowering of people, that's led to this just aggravated way of interacting in this world.
So you think it's just the society as a whole, church, school, whatever, that's created this atmosphere where we're just agitated? I mean, what word did you? Yeah, and just, just going at each other. We got to be heard. Listen to me.
Yeah. So, and I know that there are schools, there are spiritual communities, and there are institutions that, really do empower people. But it also feels like a lot of those institutions are gone. Like, I mean, the first one that comes to mind is like the Black Power movement. That was empowering, and it's not here anymore.
So you feel like there's some institutions, organizations, or whatever that at one time gave people the opportunity to be heard. They empowered the person or people to speak out.
Yeah.
And it's not here anymore.
Yeah. And some of those organizations aren't here. And some of those some organizations changed over time. Think about how, I think about the role that the Black church played in the civil rights movement versus the role or lack there was of the church in the Black Power movement in a lot of places. And that's not universal. Obviously, there are still amazing churches doing amazing things. But it feels like, institutions that used to do a lot of empowerment work, some of them became more focused on making money or image or something else,
So these institutions that you believe used to empower people and be active, I can't think of the word, but would empower people and be out front and lift people up, they're no longer there. They're more, it seems like a lot of them, and you mentioned churches and organizations, seems to be more focused on the almighty dollar now rather than lifting people up.
Yeah. It just makes me think about this. There's this Instagram account where it just follows, just posts pictures of famous, preachers, and it's their shoes. It's literally a picture of their shoes and how much those shoes cost. And of course it's obscene, that someone that would profess to be, a servant of the Lord is wearing $10,000 shoes. And it's one of many,
So there's this Instagram account that show pictures of the shoes that these high-powered or well-known ministers are wearing, and it kind of gets to you because they shouldn't be wearing that, spending that much money on a pair of shoes.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that, they consciously, say to themselves, I am going to be a selfish person, or I am going to take this money from the church to spend it on, material things. And I think sometimes people, when they're in their circles, they can justify anything. And I think that's kind of what I'm afraid of.
And what's really bothering you, that's on your mind right now, is that you don't know if these ministers are conscious of the fact that they're spending money, excessive amount of money, if they're doing it on purpose, or taking the money from the church and using it for personal gain, or if they're just somehow they're justifying the use of that money that people are contributing. So yeah, that's really bothering you.
Yep, exactly. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay.
4 minutes.
Oh, excuse me, but yeah, we have 4 minutes. So if it's okay, my suggestion would be to do a little bit of a debrief before we join the larger group, and to give Kelly, Jay, or anybody else an opportunity to share what this experience was like for you today. And I'd like to give Kelly or Jay the opportunity to go first.
Sure.
And since, okay, good job, Kelly. Great.
I really enjoyed this. I think you guys are all great, and a big thing that I'm resonating on is this awareness of how we communicate and how we express ourselves and how other people express themselves. It's like this big form of awareness coming along, and I think it's a good shift that we're going in, I feel like. So I'm grateful and excited for what's to come.
Thank you, Kelly. Jay?
Yeah, this is a great experience. It's interesting to think about, being someone with like ADD, and I have a million thoughts up here, and what actually comes out, is not always what, I heard in here, and be able to reconcile those things. And it's interesting because what comes out, even though it's not necessarily what I thought I was going to say, but I think it portrays it betrays like a deeper thing that needed to be said, that needed to come out. And I think those moments are are very valuable, versus in the past I kind of denigrated them, like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. But now what's coming out is it feels like it's because it's in a place of presence, it matters. It's important,
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Linda, Edwin, anything you'd like to add? Oh,
I like what I really, really like about the circle is that it's non-judgmental, which makes it a safe place, which encourages people to open up and say what they want to say, because they know if everybody sticks to the process, they're not going to be slammed. So I really like the non-judgmental part of the process. And I think that happened today.
Thank you, Linda. Edwin?
Yeah, for me, it's sort of that there's something I'm trying to sort of identify is there's a certain feeling that happens when everyone listens to everyone else. It's very beautiful. There's real beauty to it. There's a gentleness, there's a warmth, there's a care, there's and somehow it's hard to convey that to the culture in general. It's like there's something missing that the culture doesn't quite see it or value it. It's like it's just something, to be able to put a word or some way to convey that to people. They're all kind of worked up and getting more worked up, and the battle is the important thing, but somehow this real connection is missing. So just sort of sitting with that feeling and how to tap into it. I think Linda had some thoughts on that.
No, I just thought of the word harmony.
Harmony.
Because it's harmony, jazz is just, everything is smooth and it's flowing together. And then when you have this chaotic music, which you can't understand, it's bam, 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 you like, that's what it is when people are just going at each other. So I'm sorry, I broke the chain. It's
I was curious. I was looking for that word. Yeah, I think that captures it. But it's not like the culture values harmony. It says, oh, great, let's have harmony. It's like, let's have discord and self-centeredness,
And that's when you get the hard rock. Bam, bam, bam. And you're like, what the hell?
Well, Linda, I would just add that as long as you're not sorry, it's okay. And
I apologize.
No apology necessary. But I also think that for me, like, it's the sense of connectedness and belonging that takes place unspoken, in a sense, that happens during the process.
Connected.
That harmony of connection.
Thank you, Dwayne.
You're welcome. And thank you all for today.
Okay.
Hi.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. I think everyone is back. And now we're going to go around the room and ask each one to share for about a minute your experience and insights from the Empathy Circle. How did one of your values relate to empathy and the culture of empathy, or whatever is alive in you? And I'll just go around the screen, and I'll start with Altonia. Would you share, please?
No, I don't want to. We had a great circle. It was Pao, Lou, Jay and Ina and I, and we had a good circle. We talked a lot about caring. We talked a lot about the compassion for humanity, about boundaries. We talked about a lot of different things. There were a lot of epiphanies going off, a lot of awareness people got out of the circle that we had. So, I mean, I loved it, and they both did a great job.
Thank you, Altonia. And Dwayne, would you share, please?
I've been living with the COVID long haul syndrome for a long time now. And so one of the things that is really, I think for me, really powerful about the empathy circle experience is no matter how, like I may start the process not feeling well, but at the end of the process, I feel energized, I feel connected, and I feel good. I feel better. And so, I'm thankful for Edwin, Linda, for Jay and Kelly for an amazing experience today. And I welcome the opportunity to share this space with the rest of you all who are part of this process. And again, for me, I'm grateful and thankful that I can feel better through a process like this. And I think it's important to, again, share this experience with the rest of the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Sally, would you share, please?
I had a wonderful time, and I always learn a little bit more on, well, just fine tuning my listening skills. And well, I'm just gonna point this out that 90% of all arguments are caused by misunderstandings. And I'm just something new for everyone that I've been researching that might be interesting for other people to listen to. And I think the value that came up the most for us was curiosity. And the counter to curiosity is fear. So stay fearless.
Thank you, Sally. Wendy, would you share, please?
Thank you. It was a privilege to be in a small group with Anastasia and Bill and Anne, and there were a range of values that we explored: democracy and humility and mercy, and a range of values. And yeah, it was a privilege to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Anastasia, would you share, please?
I like to be part of the group with Wendy, Anne, and Bill. It was difficult for me because I'm not a fluent English speaker, and I want to thank them for the space they gave me.
Thank you, Anastasia. And Bill, would you share, please?
Sure. Well, I want to express my appreciation as well, and especially to Anastasia and anybody else who's for whom English is not a first language. Your bravery in coming here is exactly the kind of energy we need to save the world, and it's only my pleasure to accommodate you.
Thank you, Bill. And Celine, would you share, please?
Well, I loved our circle. For me, talking about the values of the empathy circles is just, they're a thrill. It's so it was interesting. I learned about the folks in my group, which was Larry and Garan and Sally, and I have new ideas to think about. So it was fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine. And Anne, would you share, please?
Yeah, I'm just really grateful to the other people in my circle. We had a really interesting discussion, and I enjoyed that we talked about democracy and
it's really close to my heart at the moment, and I really appreciate Anastasia's presence from Greece, the home of origin of democracy. So we had a good discussion and beautifully facilitated by Wendy. And I pass on now. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. And Garan, would you share, please?
Thank you to all the team that was with me today, and also we have nice ideas like curiosity, in the sense of be like a child trying to discover the world, but make part of the empathy process, in the sense of be open to listen to the other one without judgment. It's one idea that I take home today.
Thank you, Garan. And Paula, would you share, please?
I was in the group with Altonia, Ina, and Lou, and Altonia did a great job facilitating, and Lou facilitator. It was really great to see how they were seamless doing that co-facilitation. We dove into many topics. I think what I'm taking away is my new understanding of mutuality. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Ina, would you share, please?
Yeah, I was just in the group with Altanya, Paula, and Lou, and that was just truly an amazing, beautiful experience. I learned on a very, very deep level. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ina. And Lou, would you share, please?
Yes. Yeah, I'm just full of appreciation for Altonia's facilitation, and for Ina and Paula's sharing about their thoughts about the values. We focused a lot on mutuality and care, and it was interesting how deep and how many different kind of shades and implications those had. And yeah, so grateful to get to know the two of you, and so happy that you're here doing this training. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lou. And Jay, would you share, please?
Sure. Yeah, it was a really great experience. It's always interesting. I was mentioning to my group how, the things that I think of are not always, or like with the topic I think of is not always the direction that I necessarily go in, and how it feels like, oh, okay, this needed to come out, and how important and vital it is to have kind of those moments where the things that maybe are just slightly below the surface are given free reign to be expressed in like a non-judgmental place, especially the part about it being a non-judgmental space. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. And Kelly, would you share, please?
Yes, very grateful as well for Jay, Edwin, Linda, and Dwayne. And we talked about authenticity and being open and being in that safe space, how we can be more open. And in general, I just love listening to other people. So I enjoy the process and taking notes and learning from each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. And Linda, would you share, please?
Yep, another good experience. This time it just emphasized the need to choose my words wisely, because it matters the words that we use when we speak.
Thank you, Linda. And I will share that I just love these empathy circles. There's just nothing like it for human beings to live for at least an hour and a half in that non-judgmental, curious freedom to let the inner child within each of us live freely, breathe freely, and celebrate life in a safe space. Edwin, how was your experience today?
Well, the empathy circle, I always feel that it enriches my life, just hearing all the different insights, the feelings from everyone's presence. Just my life is enriched, and also just the warmth in our circle is just very warm. and I just, it's sort of like getting a little empathy bath of warmth. So, empathy sauna. So, and it was, the idea that the empathy is sort of a starting point, sort of seeing that the empathy, the mutuality, and out of that can grow other values of openness, authenticity, curiosity, inquisitiveness, free speech, and also free empathy, and the sense of responsibility that we're willing to speak freely, but also to listen freely. And that's the sense of responsibility, and how it creates a kindness and peace. And that I heard some people say it's non-judgmental. You can, as a speaker, be judgmental, not that that's what we want you to be, but there's a space for that free speech, and that the listening sort of transforms that, and I think creates a safe enough space, for mutual growth and connection. Yeah.
Thank you, Edwin. And now I think we turn it over to Dwayne.
Unmute. And is there anything that any of the trainers would like to add before I move forward? Lou?
Yeah, I want to just add to what Edwin said about expression. And one of the things, I hear a lot of the warmth that happened in the empathy circles, and certainly ours was very warm too, and people love that so much. But I just want to say that all feelings are welcome in an empathy circle, and that and so sometimes that means hearing anger, sometimes that means hearing pain, other emotions as well. And that's a really important principle, because I have seen some facilitators take the attitude that if the empathy circle isn't warm and fuzzy, then it's not a good circle, or something's wrong with it. And so, yeah, all feelings have to be welcome in an empathy circle.
Thank you, Lou. Yes, Celine, would you like to share something? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm supporting what Lou said.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. So let's review what we did in this session. To summarize, we received the core values of the culture of empathy, which is something that's always, there's a core of values, but it's also fluid and evolving. We explored how our values related to empathy and a culture of empathy are related to empathy and a culture of empathy. And we also participated in an empathy circle. What's coming up next week in session 2, you will have an opportunity to practice facilitating a mini empathy circle. It's going to be really important that you familiarize yourself with how to facilitate an empathy circle instructions, and to prepare to introduce the empathy circle process in the next session. And it's also important to remember that, again, we're all a work in progress, and so it's not important to be perfect the first time you do this, but to enjoy the experience and make the most of it. Assignments. You'll be receiving an email and remember to you're going to be receiving an email. And so remember to fill out the session feedback survey. That link is going to be in the chat. You'll also will receive information on what we call a buddy call. There's a web page that explains it, and it will be in the email. It's important we believe that it's important to have support as a facilitator. And so this one-on-one buddy call is an opportunity to dialogue with someone else who's going through the process or who's been through the process. The benefits of a buddy call, some of the benefits are having people to co-facilitate with, etc. After you've completed this facilitation training and you're looking for people to do a project or something with you, this buddy call opportunity also gives you an opportunity to connect with people on a different level. We also encourage you to try to facilitate, well, not, I'm going to take the word try out. We would encourage you to facilitate an empathy circle with family, friends, etc., if you have the opportunity to. And then one other thing I'd like to highlight is the reminder that for some people, there's going to be time zone changes taking place in the next week or so. So, you know, it's really important that you have your time set correctly so that you'll show up for our next session on Monday. Is there any questions before we end?
Is that time zone change is happening next weekend?
Yeah, it happens in the US. Our time zone, we have daylight saving. So if you're we'll be starting the same time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're in the UK or in other parts of the world, the times will be shifting a bit. So it's more for if you're outside of the US.
And that's for next Monday. That
Monday.
happens next weekend. So
yeah.
It's next Monday. Okay.
And again, just a reminder, make sure you click on the link for the feedback form before we end the session. And if there's nothing else that anyone would like to add, I'll add one announcement that on Wednesdays from 10 to 12, we always, Wendy, Gabby, and Katie and I host the Empathy Circle. So if you'd like to join us, the group is actually based out of Italy, but anyone is welcome. And it's also an opportunity, if we have large enough group, that we can give you an opportunity to practice facilitating. And Altonia, is there something you wanted to say?
Yes, I just have a question. I'm doing the feedback form, but I'm not able to.
I couldn't hear you. You cut off. I think what Altonia was saying, I think you're saying that you're not able to click on the link for the feedback.
Can you guys
form.
hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, I'm not sure if that's because it's almost like as if I'm in the back end of the form and I can make changes to the form.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. That's I sent you the admin form. Thanks for pointing that out.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm gonna also email that. Let me put that in there. Well, I've done that before. Here is the form, the filling it out. I had sent you the admin link by accident, so okay. I just put the full link in.
All right. Thank you. And again, I remind you to click on that before we end the session so that you'll have it there afterwards. And if is there anything else before we close? Yes, Paula.
I won't be able to attend next session. So how do I do in order to count for the trainee hours?
Well, this is for a certificate, so you have to attend all the sessions. So it's just a matter of attendance for certificates. But you can do an empathy buddy call. We'll send you the link for the empathy buddy call, and we'll send you all the information, about. You can also watch the video, so that'll give sort of an introduction to what we're going to be doing. So you won't if you miss a session, you won't get a certificate. So that's unfortunately, it's just a certificate of completion. So you have to attend each session.
Well, Edwin, can you make up a session by the next time we have a cohort to sit in on the second one, whatever one you missed, or I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, we haven't really set that. It's just been a certificate of completion. So there's no, it's, yeah.
Okay.
So you won't get this certificate, but if you take it again, you'll get the certificate, the next time.
Gotcha. Okay, so it has to be 5 consecutive meetings. Gotcha. Okay, just checking. All righty.
Okay.
And I did
well,
put
as
the new link in for the for the form. I hope that's the right one this time.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking at it.
oh, okay. So, and as always, we like to end our sessions with the jazz hand. So if we could have everyone be on camera for just a moment, and so we can do our jazz hand. We're still missing a couple people.
Ina,
Selena,
Jay,
Sally and
Sally.
Selena.
Jay.
No, Selena.
Jay.
There you
Okay.
go. Hey.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye. See you next
everyone.
week.
Everyone.
Keep an eye out
See
for
you
the
later.
email.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And trainers and trainees, make sure you stay back.
Yes, sir.